Hello, welcome. My name is Laura Lamb.
I'm Lilly Doninger.
I'm Redeit Hailu.
I'm Josh Murray.
And we are the Guild Foundation. So, the current state of palm oil cultivation in Kalimantan, Indonesia is extremely unsustainable. To meet global demand of palm oil, expansion for new plantations has involved rapid deforestation of essential Borneo rainforest by either mechanical clearing or burning of the land. Doing so has caused both environmental and economic devastation to Kalimantan. These ecosystems, particularly the peat swamp forests, are home to countless species, including many endangered ones, and act as important carbon sinks for climate control. The rainforests also provide natural resources that sustain indigenous communities. The clearing of forests, pollution of rivers, and pollution of air resulting from palm oil production has added more barriers to indigenous and smallholder farmers to making a living and accessing these natural resources. This infographic shows a quick overview of our project. The problem we are addressing is the environmental impact of palm oil production, mainly deforestation and pollution, and the barriers for small-scale farmers to switching to sustainable farming. Sustainable production is expensive and skill-intensive, and smallholder farmers must compete with large producers that hold most of the market share. Currently, there are few incentives for smallholder farmers to cultivate palm oil sustainably. In order to address these issues, we will create a private foundation funded by the corporation Earth Balance to convert the existing smallholder farmers to sustainable ones. And we will act as a middleman between Earth Balance and the smallholder farms. In the first year, we want to have all smallholder farms in our project meet the 8 RSPO sustainable farming practices to become RSPO certified. We will also aim to increase market power for smallholder farmers to protect their autonomy. Past the first year, we want to work towards even more sustainable POIG guidelines, prevent future exploitation of smallholder farmers, mitigate environmental effects of palm oil production, and give smallholders the resources to be both sustainable and self-sufficient. So individual smallholder farmers produce 40% of the palm oil in Kalimantan and are subsequently contributing to the destruction of the ecosystems that they call home. However, they lack the incentives and the skills education to meet RSPO guidelines. Large palm oil producers discourage smallholder independence and decrease smallholder market power and the ability to have financial stability. So this is where we come in.
So our solution and innovation is mainly focused on effectiveness and scale, and we aim to build upon a bunch of local previous projects in the region and within the sustainable palm oil industry. And previous projects include like education workshops and company farm relationships. But our innovation, we want to include financing, education, and a trade relationship in one. So our specific solution would be to incentivize smallholder farms we want to incentivize smallholder farmers to gain RSPO credibility through provided equipment loans and first purchase rights on behalf of our funder, Earth Balance, and to educate farmers on sustainable practices via the World Wildlife Foundation workshops. And our stakeholders are the Guild Private Foundation, independent smallholders, which are the local partners, the Earth Balance Corporation, which is our primary funder and purchaser, and the World Wildlife Fund for educational workshops. So Earth Balance is a US company that produces vegan, plant-based spreads, nut butters, and dressings, and they have committed to source 100% of their palm oil from RSPO certified sources, and they have a long-term end goal of achieving the POIG certification for all of their suppliers. And Earth Balance would want to increase their supply of sustainable palm oil by partnering with us, but they would also like to receive good PR through promoting the expansion of sustainable palm oil practices worldwide.
So the structure of Guild is that it is a private corporate foundation funded by but independent from Earth Balance. So on our foundation board, we have 4 founding members, which is the 4 of us, 2 local smallholder farmers, 1 Earth Balance representative, and 1 WWF education specialist. So we are strategically including the 2 local smallholder farmers on our foundation board as their community members, and to increase the appeal and adaptation of the Guild program. So we want to emphasize our desire to work hand in hand with this community to prevent further exploitation. So our headquarters will be held in the US, and we will act as a liaison between Earth Balance and Bornean smallholder farmers. And we would like to have a country office in Borneo to communicate directly with smallholder farmers and to oversee sustainable practices, education courses, and utilization of the capital resources that we are lending out to them. So we have granted Earth Balance the first rights to purchase sustainably produced palm oil to incentivize their funding and to fulfill their company's goal of sourcing palm oil from sustainable sources. And we are asking that Earth Balance pay 2.5% above the market price to guarantee economic stability to our smallholder farmers. Second, smallholder farmers must complete RSPO certification after 1 year and maintain the certification for the duration of the program. Third, smallholder farmers must attend the WWF educational courses. And lastly, Guild will give biannual cash transfers to smallholder farmers for the first full crop cycle, which is about 4 years, to incentivize their stay in our program. So our implementation slide focuses on how a singular smallholder farmer can join our program. So first, smallholder farmers can apply for the Guild program. Once they are accepted into our program, farmers receive initial cash transfers and necessary equipment loan. And the equipment loan is just to fulfill the sustainability practices in order to achieve the RSPO certification. And farmers will then attend the WWF educational workshop. And then smallholder farmers complete the RSPO certification within the first year, that being our short-term goal. Next, Earth Balance will purchase the newly sustainable crop, and overall, throughout the entire duration of the program, Guild oversees sustainable farming practices and contract compliant behavior.
All right, so our short-term goals are to increase the number of smallholder farms with RSPO certifications. We're hoping to do that within 1 year. And along with that, we're hoping to support the autonomy and empowerment of smallholder farmers within the growing sustainable palm industry. On a longer term basis, what we're hoping to do is establish this baseline with RSPO at the end of 1 year, and then move on to achieving POAG certification, which is a stricter certification that builds on RSPO to require greater sustainability. Overall, we hope to improve the environmental conditions of the Kalimantan Peninsula. And yeah, we believe this is a pretty concrete, practical problem we can solve by scaling up and integrating existing solutions. So we have this deforestation, we have this pollution, but by working with solutions that have already been tried and have been successful and integrating them into one single cohesive package, we think that we can really change the game when it comes to lack of incentives for RSPO certification among smallholder farmers. This solution is sustainable beyond 1 year. As we said, we could scale it up to involve POAG certification. Once small farmers have sort of made the capital intensive transition from unsustainable farming to sustainable farming, we think that they have an economically viable future selling sustainable products to Earth Balance or other suppliers. And this market is only growing. On an environmental sort of side, this mitigates deforestation and pollution, improves the chances for rare and exotic species to survive untouched in their environments, and decreases human-wildlife conflict because under the RSPO guidelines, farmers are going to be concentrating their production areas that have already been cleared. From a fiscal level, we think this is pragmatic because we have funding from Earth Balance. There's also the potential for, once our model is proven at the end of the year, potentially to secure funding from governments or international organizations such as the WHO or the UN Environment Program. This is really rooted in the local context, working hand in hand with our partners, both through our Borneo country office, as well as local WWF staff who are going to be conducting the on-the-ground training. We know that private foundations started by corporations can work. Just look at what Novo Nordisk did with the World Diabetes Foundation, creating something that has really had a very positive impact across the developing world. Thanks for listening to our proposal. We welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, Global Development Guild. And now the judges will have 5 minutes to ask any questions.
jump in. Sorry, Meredith, I saw you off mute, so I wasn't sure if you were going. Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to ask, I saw that it's interesting that you've got the first rights to go to Earth Balance as a corporation. And I kind of want to ask the reverse side of that question, which is, are there any guarantees to the small shareholder farmers for minimums of this production by Earth Balance? Or is there anything, I mean, presumably there would be demand and market for that, but what if there wasn't? And are there any reassurances provided to the small shareholders? Because what happens if Earth Balance doesn't take those options and then they have perhaps higher priced commodity because it's gone through this additional rigor? Then what happens?
Maybe I should build on that. I'm also curious sort of what the limits of Earth Balance's demand are and sort of where you suspect the solution will sort of cap out in terms of supply of palm oil relative to Earth Balance's demand. How many people are we actually going to be able to help?
Earth Balance makes up a relatively small percentage of the global palm oil market, considering they offer a relatively niche product that's mostly sold here in the United States. But we think that this offers a way to prove our model and to increase the number of farmers in the sustainable palm oil market, which is going to, I think, increase pressure for other farmers to adopt this model as well. When it comes to the question of like minimum prices, definitely there would be some issues if the market as a whole dipped, or if Earth Balance decided not to purchase. We think that that's a situation where the farmers might want to make use of resources and solutions created by other teams.
And I think that's also where our Guild Foundation would step in, would be if Earth Balance doesn't have quite such a high demand, like we would step in and help the farmers outsource elsewhere. And ideally, like our model would then encourage other organizations and large companies to kind of get in on a similar note, or potentially even fund our organization as well, where there would be more demand in the future.
And we would like to further emphasize that we have seen the impact of palm oil within the global economy. It plays a very large role, not only in being a commodity, but also in creating many commodities. So we highly doubt that palm oil is leaving anytime soon, but rather we need to change the focus to a sustainable approach of producing it.
Maybe just to ask a follow-on question to that, is there anything in terms of this first year plan, and apologies if I missed it, that's thinking about sort of a pilot group then, or a limit on the number of of the small shareholder farmers that get involved in this to try and figure out that right sizing of production to demand for on the, with company or companies?
I think that would obviously be a conversation that would be had within our board of the Earth Balance representatives, as well as the small farm holders. In terms of like exact numbers, we hadn't come up with like an exact amount yet, because we also didn't specify how much we would be funded by Earth Balance. But there would be a lot of conversation within the foundation in terms of how large scale we do want to make it.
Yes. And we definitely will have a pilot program to begin with. And since the crop cycle lasts about 4 years, we will also be able to assess if the global demand increases or decreases for sustainable palm oil production and adjust as a result of that.
I'm curious what you think the benefit of being based in the United States is. Why is that better than being located in Indonesia?
So we want to have a country office in Indonesia, mainly to make sure that we have that relationship with the indigenous people, that we get their say, to make sure that this is really what they want, to see what scale that they want our project to be implemented as. But the incentive to have an office also in the United States is that Earth Balance is a US-based corporation. They have offices in Colorado. So for us, it makes sense for travel and for meetings to be able to have that close relationship and close contact.
Can I ask a question? And I'm sorry that I don't know a lot about Earth Balance, but I know that they're obviously a company, do they not already have a CSR or foundation arm on their own? Or are you essentially saying we'll create a foundation for you? Do they not have one?
I think that they have a CSR department. I don't think they have a full private foundation, so this would be a step towards doing that in their supply chain.
And you were saying that you would have how many people on the board from Earth Balance?
We would have one representative from Earth Balance on the foundation board.
Okay, so this would essentially be quite independent from Earth Balance.
Yes.
Yeah, and our goal of having more of an independent foundation from Earth Balance would be to ensure that the relationship between Earth Balance and the small farmers is not exploitative in any means. But Earth Balance is ultimately controlling the budget as well as purchasing the crop.
That's all the time that we have for questions. I'm sorry, but thank you very much, Team Global Development Guild.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And now the judges will have 5 minutes to deliberate.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your